Alright, so this is a documentation video for the Origami Cicada Shell that I've designed. This one's probably a bit clearer to see, but this one is the one that I've just folded for practice. So here it was designed to have a open back to sort of give the appearance of the cicada emerging from it. So I'll just be using a standard size piece of origami paper. Same color, I think white makes it a bit clearer to see what's going on. I have not yet folded it with kami paper, which will sort of let you know where the colored side, what side to fold it on first. So I can't talk about that. Anyways, what we're going to do to start is we're going to create the spine, which is just by dividing the paper in half horizontally. So I'm going to air fold these 2 points and then table fold the whole line. There we go. So now that we've created the spine, what we need to do is make a few division points along the spine that are going to help us later on. So we need a half, a quarter, then an 8, and then 2/8. So what we're going to do, we're going to fold this in half. So we're going to air fold this, and we're just going to pinch this. We're not going to fold the whole line. Then we're going to fold to this half, and again, we're just going to pinch it. And then finally, we're going to fold again to that point that we just made, and again, just pinch it. So we've got a pinch, and a pinch here. What we're now going to do is we're going to divide these two in half, and we're just going to pinch the middle area. So to do that, make sure both sides are mounted, so flip the paper over for that. And then you're just going to hold them as though they were full lines, and sort of push the middle bit down, and that will let you bring them together and then pinch the base there, and that's going to result in this. So now what we really need is we need this point here, but we also need this point. We need sort of 2 points in the middle here. So what we're going to do is fold down along this point, and we're not going to continue it outward, but approximately halfway through this side we're going to make a little pinch, and approximately halfway through this side we're going to make a little pinch. So it's a little bit hard to see, but we've got a pinch here, a pinch in the middle, and a pinch on this side, and we just need to focus on these two. So what we're going to do now, fold over the spine like this, and we're going to grab this and halve it, but we're not going to fold the whole thing, but approximately where that line is, we're going to make a pinch. And so we've got this cross, and in the middle of that cross, there is that point, and we need that point. So we're going to do that on both sides. We only really need it on one side. However, having it on both sides is going to give us a little bit more accuracy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a fold from this point up to this corner here. We're then going to make a fold from this point down to this point here, and this edge piece here. And this is not a straight line, there are two separate folds. We're then going to make a line from here to here, and then we're going to use origami theory to make a fourth line. So what we want to do is make sure that we're folding from the vertex itself, not just from one of the lines, which can be a little bit tricky. So just making sure that's like that, and then the point should be sharp. So there, now that we have these 2 points, we can fold along there, and we'll get our first fold. And that should pass right through that intersection there. That's the sign that you've done it well. Now what we're going to do is making sure again we're folding from, actually just fold over the spine again. That's going to make it easier to fold from here. But making sure you're folding from the vertex and not from a continuation of that line, which is tricky. And you can also use the other point on the other side just to sort of double check. You can fold down, and now the paper should look like this. So you can see how they're at a slightly different angle and they both pass through that middle point. Now we're going to fold from the vertex, and each time we add a new line to the vertex, it's going to get easier to fold from. So you're going to fold from the vertex up to this point here. So this top, I think that, yeah, 8th division. So now the paper should look like this. What we're then going to do is hold the paper so that there are these folds that we've just made are all mountain folds. And we're going to create a new line using origami theory. So we're going to fold over this, fold this side down, this side down. We're basically going to mountain fold everything, and that's going to make this new fold a valley fold. So we're just going to fold everything down and flat fold it, and that will create this new line here. And what we're going to do is making sure that this is a mountain and this is a valley. We're going to flat fold all of this and then fold over the spine. And now using this, everything is lined up for us to mirror what we've just done on this side. And we have this point here for extra sort of security. So we're going to start by folding from this point to this point here, and we can line up with the line at the bottom. And everything, and that should flat fold. You don't want to continue it. Now we're going to unfold. And we're going to fold from this point to this point, and we have this huge flap down here, as well as the point up here to go off of. So this is one of the easier folds to do. There. Now that we've done that, we're going to fold again over this side. And we're not going to flatten this, because what we need is from this point to the end point to mirror this side. So we're going to fold like that. And then we're going to flat fold like we did before, which is going to create that additional line. So now we have something that looks like this. This is not yet the base. We're on our way to making it. So now we're going to unfold everything, and it should look like this. Now hold everything so that these are mountain folds. And what we're going to do is we have these two valley folds here, and we want them to be mountain folds. So we're going to fold over so that they are mountain folds now. And normally, since this is somewhat of a mirror of this line over this vertex, but not exactly, you would think that you could use the Kawasaki mirror rule, but if we try that, well, the Kawasaki mirror technique, it does not quite work, and that's because this is not a continuation, so we have to do it in the way that I showed, which does mean we have to reverse it because it's the traditional method. Now what we're going to do is, this is not yet our crease pattern. We need a few more lines. What we need is a bisection of this and these two. So this angle here and this angle here, we're going to create bisections, and that's going to let this become a sort of exterior point that we're going to use to turn this upper point here into this claw. So yeah, and same side, and we're going to do that on both sides. So first we're going to bisect this. So we're going to have these two mountain folds and then fold them in half so that they're touching, and then behind go and flatten that, and that's going to result in that point. And then here, this one's a little bit tricky. You're just going to kind of push that down and then try to bisect this. Now be careful, the line that we just made through the last bisection does not like this. So you're going to pull it out and then gently, don't press it hard, don't crease it very hard. But you're going to make that bisection. And the reason why you don't want to crease it very hard is we don't need this whole thing. We just need half of it. And we'll get to that in a second. So we just want it soft. It's okay if it goes all the way down to the spine and even a little bit further because we did it gently. Now we're going to bisect these two. There, that's going to result in that. And I'm going to push this down and bisect these two. So it's the same exact thing that we just did, just on the other side. And again, this fold that we just made, not going to like it, so we're going to pull that out. And then just very gently bisect it. And everything should sort of line up. So these two should meet at a point. Well, they will anyways. Now, what we're going to do, and it's a little bit hard to see here, but the this bottom ridge here is actually the spine. So we need to sort of flick it out. And the way that I've done that is by lining it up with these points here, because these will end up being part of the bottom as well. And so to do that, what we're going to do is we'll bisect this angle here. So these two, we're going to get a line that goes straight up here, and that's going to create a vertex here. Then we're going to bisect this angle, and that's going to join up with that vertex as well. Then we can sort of more strongly fold this bisection that we made, and that will all flat fold with all the lines that we've made, with the exception of this tip. But when we fold it on both sides, it will flat fold. So here we're going to pop the spine out, make it a mountain fold, and we're going to start by bisecting this. And we want to start with this one because it's larger, it's a lot easier. We have a lot more space to work with, and we can line things up much better. So bring it around about to this point. Then we begin to bisect this angle. Now the paper wants to float a little bit above the spine. Don't let it. Force it to fold exactly how you want it. And there. And by proxy, that's going to strengthen the line that we've just made. And we're not going to flatten this bit. Leave it out. If you see a little crease, just sort of massage it until it goes away. Here, we're going to push in and fold along our mountain fold. So it's a little bit hard to see for you there, but that's our mountain fold. And we should be able to flatten everything, sort of. You'll get a little bit like this. That's because in order to flat fold, we need one more line that's going to create a few more lines for a crease pattern. So we're going to keep these two flaps. They should be on line like that. And we're just going to sort of tuck it in, kind of like this. And it might stick out a little bit. That's not going to be too visible on the final piece. So you don't need to worry about that. That's a crime that will be hidden. So everything should flat fold except for this. And you can see here I've gone a little bit over and a little bit under here. That's not going to be too visible on the final piece, so you don't need to worry about it so much. You just need to be kind of consistent so that the arms line up. So now we're going to do the other side, and I'm going to unfold all of this. Now here you can see there's a little bit of weirdness going on. We don't like that, but we will correct that as part of the folding. So we don't need to worry about that. But for the most part, this is what the crease pattern for one side should look like, at least for the base. So now we're going to repeat what we did on this side. So we're going to bisect this angle, this, and it's very similar to a rabbit ear fold. So if you just think you're kind of doing a rabbit ear fold. So here, this is a little bit too far. Oh, we don't want it to be that far up. And then here, we're going to stick that in. And that is not going to want to fully flat fold. And again, we're going to have this. This won't flat fold. Don't force it. We'll deal with that in a second. And so then we fold that down. And it should be pretty similar to the other side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold them both together. So we're going to fold this side down. So we're going to sort of rabbit ear fold that again, and it should just sort of pop right into place. And hopefully these should line up. But if they don't line up, it's not a huge deal. Because there are the claws, we have plenty of opportunity to hide the hide our crimes. So here we've got this. It sort of looks like a rabbit. Now what we're going to do is we need the claws to face down. So we're going to take this down. And the way that we know the direction and the distance to fold it down is we have this inside flap, which as you can see contains that little bit that I mentioned earlier. And we're going to make that a petal fold. So we're going to fold inwards. Like that. Like that. And that's a petal fold. And then we fold it down. And if you've done everything right, it should follow this line here. But if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. So you fold that down, and then you're going to continue this up. And what you'll see is this tip is not going to want to flat fold. Again, this tip really doesn't like flat folding. But now is the time that we do it. So we continue this line all the way to the end, and you'll see a little line there. And we're going to flat fold it so that that line is in line with the line that we just made. It's going to flat fold and it's going to look kind of like that. You want to avoid this tip problem, but this tip is actually going to be part of the head. This is the wrong, sorry, that's the wrong one. Part of the head there, that's going to be hidden. Sorry, this one was made using a slightly different technique, and so it has a visible head flap. But we will be getting rid of that here. So you're going to flip that over and repeat on this side. So we're going to make sure that this is a petal fold. And then fold that down. And that should follow that line right there. Again, I've kind of marked up this spine, but that's okay because it's not super visible on the final product. Now what we're going to do, we have this little bit here. It's folded. We're going to invert fold that outwards so that it sticks out. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of unfold everything and then flick it out like that. Doing that, it's going to look like that. Now be careful. With this one, it's relatively small, but it is possible to fold it so that it's a bit larger. That's not going to have too much of an effect on the final piece because we hide it in the end. I actually think we won't hide it just now. We'll hide it in a bit. But if it's larger, you want to be super careful when you're folding that because the paper can rip, and we don't want the paper to rip. But if the paper does rip, just claim it's kirigami. Because you're allowed to rip paper there. So now what we're going to do is we have this sort of sleeve, and we're going to fold that over this line here. So just like that, and continue it right down. And it should look a bit like this. We're going to do that on both sides. Now we need to make this into the claw. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to kind of petal fold. We're going to take a portion of this and fold it so that it's flat here. So kind of like that. Then we're going to want to create the second sort of part of the petal fold to follow this sort of the spine. To follow the spine so that there shouldn't be any real visual difference between where the spine is and where this fold is. And if everything's done right, you shouldn't see any of this. Everything is not done perfectly right here. I've made micro mistakes, which has resulted in this poking out a little bit. But that's okay. This will be somewhat visible in the final product. I don't know if it's... but yeah, the claw in the end is going to kind of cover that area, so it's going to be a little bit harder to see. So you're going to flip it over, do the same thing on this side. Now if your claws don't look identical, that is okay, since they're folded in the way that they are. It's almost impossible to tell. So you can see sort of, you know, firstly they're separated, they're not symmetrical, and we have plenty of ways to make them look the same. So now that we've folded the claws, it's time to hide this piece. And what we do is we open one side. So we have this middle spine bit and these two flaps. We're going to open one flap and we're going to fold it in along the lines that it already has. So it has this line here. We're going to fold it in like that and then fold it shut. And there, and you should just end up with that being flat. If it's not perfectly flat, that's okay. That piece forms this little bit here. So if it is perfectly flat, this one was not, that should just be like a line, which it probably will be for this one because it's quite flat. But if it's not super visible. So you don't need to worry too much about that. Now we're going to completely ignore this head section until pretty much the very end. What we're going to do now is we have this sleeve and we're going to expose the claw section a bit more. So to do that, we have this point down here. There's a faint line, but you can tell a bit better because the paper does not like folding any further than that. So I kind of tug on that. It will rip if you tug too hard, but it will stop at this point. So when it just crease that little bit there, and we want to fold it until this point here. So if we pull this any further, it will start to petal fold. You can see there. So just at the point right before it starts to petal fold, that's where we want to fold this. Now we're going to unfold that, and we have this line. We're going to turn this into a mountain fold, and what we're going to do is we have this pocket. We're going to fold it so that this flap is hidden in the pocket. Now, in most cases, a little teensy bit on the end will be poking out. I don't know if it's visible on the black one that I did. So here you can see a little bit folding out. That's going to be covered by the claw, so you don't need to worry about it. You have quite a big margin of error for this piece. So you're going to fold that, make that a mountain fold, and then just tuck it in and kind of like pleat fold it. And here you can see there's a little bit there. Not a big deal, don't worry about it. So then the other side. And we're going to repeat the same fold here and just tuck it in like that. And again, little flap, not a big deal. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the segmented sort of abdominal tail section. So to do that, we need to make exactly one guideline and then 3 true lines to follow to create that segmented look. So the guideline, we're going to form that, we're going to take this point, fold it down here. So you're going to fold it to here and just pinch at the end. That's all we need to do with that. But do give it a good pinch because that's going to make your life easier in a little bit. So here, now we're going to fold this to this point. And that is going to be our first true line. And this is actually just going to shorten the piece by quite a lot, but you'll see that in a second. Now, for the second one, we're going to bring this piece to here, and we're going to create a divided line in between. Now, it's easier to invert this whole line rather than just the guideline. So I invert that so they're both mountain folds, and then I bring them together like this and fold along there, and that's going to result in this line and this line. Now for the last line, we're going to take this point, bring it to the guideline, and that will give us this line. So in total, we have one line here, that's a true line, one line here, that's a true line. This is a guideline, so we're going to ignore that, and then this is a true line. So now we're going to turn this into something that looks a bit more like this. So we're going to begin by opening the piece. And the first thing that we're going to do is shorten everything using our first line. So to do this, we have this line here by the base. Now, please don't try to flat fold this. It won't flat fold, just leave it floating. We're going to fold over this line, and you want to make sure this is as exact as you can get it. And the piece will fight you on this. It doesn't want to do it, but it has to be complete. It's stubborn, I know, but they can be like that sometimes. So you're going to fold over like that. Should look something like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to invert the spine. We're going to push it down a bit. It's not going to like this, but it has to do it. And this, in fact, is not going to, fold properly at all. So don't try to force it to. You're going to end up with a little bit of weirdness like this. What we're going to do now is we're going to divide in between these two lines here, so that this point, this line that we've made, is touching this line when we're done. So I'm going to make that that's all a mountain fold. And we're going to fold it like this. And again, it's not going to want to do this at all. Fold up like this on both sides. And we want this facing outwards so that it just shortens the tail a bit. It's a little bit awkward to get this done, but once it's sort of in place, you want to kind of force it back, so push that all out, get it all kind of flattish. And here you can see I've completely failed. So I'm going to try to wrangle it back into place before I crease everything. The paper really hates this fold in particular. However, the other two folds are not so bad. I always kind of struggle with it. And it's okay if it doesn't fit perfectly. It's okay. Because this is definitely going to be completely hidden. At the end, I would never let this fold go free. Visible for everyone to see. So here, I've sort of wrangled it. There's a little bit showing here. That's okay. I'm gonna cut my losses. It's not really going to affect the piece too much. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold in this and on this line, and then we're going to fold out on that line like we did with here, but a lot less painfully. So this line here, the first one, not the other one. So this here is actually our guideline. We don't want to fold along that at all. So you can see how much less painful this is. And fold so that line, that last line that we made, touches. And you'll probably feel like, wow, this one was much easier. It was so easy. Why did I suck so much for the first one? It's like that. The first one just hates you. So here we go. We have the segmented sort of visual look. So this last piece, it's a bit long for my liking, so I'm actually going to refold that and make it a bit shorter. It's normal if you want to sort of make more assumption folds with this. So there, I much prefer that. Cool. So now we need to pose it into shape. So I like giving it this like curved look. We need to pose it now because we're about to lock it. And it's not going to be possible to pose it after we lock it. And sort of give it this sort of downwards look, and then at the bottom make it so that it's pointed up a little bit. Like that. Okay, cool. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. This is where sort of the more individual desires for looks come in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the top section. So to do that, we're going to fold kind of an assumption fold off of, it's sort of a continuation of this line for the first one. Then what we're going to do is we're going to fold this down so that it begins at a lower point. So the line begins at a much lower point like that, and then fold sort of downwards. And then for this last one, we're gonna kind of petal fold it. So you're gonna fold it down, and again, we want it to look like the line is coming from a much lower position than where the last one led off. Now to fold everything down, now that we've got this guide, we start at the bottom, and then we work our way up, like that. And we just fold everything down, and then fold it across. And there will be this little bit sticking up. We're going to use that to lock everything in place like I did here. So to keep the piece a bit more together. So now we're going to do it on this side, and the tricky bit is trying to get it to match. Seeing as you can't see the piece of this first one is a lot easier because it's kind of just a continuation of that line. And then the second one is quite difficult. Sort of turn it over, try to get it to look the same because it will be noticeable if you mess this up. And then for the last one, I find the last one quite easy to do. Seeing as you have sort of a visual on the tail. So then you're going to fold everything down, just like I said earlier. And then that will fold. And you don't need to worry about these two not lining up. That's not a problem. They're not going to be at all visible. So here, I'm going to fold that down a little bit, and that's actually going to result in them lining up. But that's just going to give more space to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to spread these apart. Kind of looks like wings. One goes in like this. The other one goes over it like this. And that's going to lock it in place. So it's just going to hold the two sides a bit together so it never really goes any further than this. Now that we've done this, we're going to do the claws. So in order to do the claws, it's really simple. We fold it back as far as it goes. This flap here, this petal fold that we made earlier, is going to prevent us from taking it too far. So we fold it back as far as it goes, and then we're going to fold it forwards again. So we're going to pleat fold it, and have this line that we just made line up with our sleeve line, our sort of sleeve pocket line. And you can see that little bit is now completely hidden. So now we're going to go over to the other side and repeat that. Fold it as far as it will go, and then pleat fold, and now we kind of want to line it up a bit. And this is also where you want to take the viewing angle, the viewing side into mind. If it's going to be viewed from this side, so if you have the final piece, it's going to be viewed from this side. You want to fold this claw first and then match the second claw to it, because if it goes over the sleeve, it's going to be a lot more noticeable if it's on the viewing side. If you're viewing from this side, this claw goes first and then you match this one to it. But here, since they already matched up, it doesn't really matter. But I always fold them to be viewed from this side. But again, it doesn't really matter if you want it to be viewed from this side. That's perfectly good. You just want to fold this claw first. So now that we've done this, we want to imagine it standing up. It's a bit hard to see, so I'll grab this paper. We want to imagine it sort of standing like that with the claws going down. So if you look at this, how the claws touch the ground. And we want to capture that sort of shape with our kind of assumption fold. And it doesn't matter if they bend in a little bit. So if you look in here, you look at this, it bends in a little bit. That's okay. It should still be able to balance because everything will be kind of center of mass is in the center. It can stand up on its own. So here, that's what I've decided to fold it as, and then I match the other side to it. Now you can reverse fold this if you want. So you want to fold the second claw to the first claw, and as you can see here, they don't match perfectly. But that's okay, because in the final piece, they're going to be quite far apart. Obviously, if you're going for perfection, you would want them to line up, but since right now I'm not going for perfection, this is okay. Now that we have every part of the cicada done except the head, we're going to fold the head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a guideline by folding this point to here. But this is what I would call a true guideline. We don't have to fold exactly to here. I actually like folding just a teensy bit ahead of it. So this is another assumption fold. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold over and let this sort of roll. You're going to fold over like this. And then the two sides are going to kind of roll on like this. And that's going to create the face. And I'm just gonna get like this. So here, I don't like the shape of the head, so I'm gonna unfold it and fold it a little bit further forward. And that's going to result in a smaller head and a bit of a longer neck, but the neck should be hidden by the head. So here we have smaller neck, longer neck, smaller head. Now, in this piece, this top bit is not really problematic. However, it is possible. Sorry, I'm just going to refold that. It's kind of annoying me. This one is not playing nice with the face. Normally they fold quite nicely. I'm going to leave it at that. But just in case you come across one that has quite a long thing that sticks up. So this one did have quite a long one that stuck up. I'll actually unfold that last fold so you can see. Here, not a fan of that, so you just tuck it in like that, and that's going to create a fold like this. And there is my Origami Cicada Shell all done. And if you fold it well, it should stand. So here it does stand on its own.